I'd been working as a food delivery driver for a few months, and it was honestly the easiest job I'd had. Drive, deliver, repeat. The tips were good, especially on rainy nights when people didn't want to leave their warm homes for takeout. That's probably why I didn't think twice about picking up a shift during a heavy downpour in late October. The evening started off typically enough, shuttling pizza and Chinese food to brightly lit homes with Halloween decorations already twinkling in the wet gloom. But then, I got a delivery order from an area I wasn't very familiar with, a part of the outskirts where houses were few and far between. The address was on Old Mill Road, a long stretch of poorly lit backcountry road that wound through dense woods. As I turned onto Old Mill Road, my GPS flickered momentarily before steadying. The rain pounded on the roof of my car, the wipers working overtime as darkness enveloped the road ahead. Street lights were scarce here, and the dense trees seemed to absorb any light, making it even harder to see. Finally, I found the house. It was set back from the road, an old two-story Victorian that looked like it hadn't seen a coat of paint in decades. Its windows were dark, and as I pulled into the gravel driveway, my headlights caught the glint of a for sale sign swaying in the wind. Confused, I double-checked the address. This was the place, all right? Grabbing the insulated food bag, I hurried to the front door, sheltering the package under my jacket as best I could. I rang the bell and waited. No answer. I knocked, glancing around at the overgrown garden and the swing hanging lopsidedly from a nearby tree. Still no response. Feeling uneasy, I rang the bell one more time. That's when I noticed a note taped to the door. Leave the food in the mailbox, paid online, tip included. I found that odd since the mailbox was a small, rusted affair, hardly big enough for the large food bag. Nonetheless, I stuffed the package inside as best I could, ensuring at least it was out of the rain. As I turned to leave, I heard it. A faint noise from the back of the house, like a door creaking open. Curiosity overcame me for a moment, and I edged around the side of the house to take a quick look. The back door was slightly ajar, swinging gently in the wind. It seemed odd, but I figured the wind might have opened it, or maybe there was someone inside after all who'd come out that way without me seeing. Shivering from the cold, I decided it was none of my business. I was just a delivery guy after all. So I jogged back to my car and drove off, the uneasy feeling slowly dissipating as I returned to more familiar, well-lit streets. When I got back to the restaurant, I mentioned the delivery to my boss, joking about the creepy old house. He frowned, then pulled up the order on his computer. His brow furrowed. "That's funny," he muttered. "This address has been marked as non-deliverable before. Should have been flagged." "Why? What's up with it?" I asked, a chill running down my spine that wasn't from my wet clothes. "It's been abandoned for years," he said, still staring at the screen. "Somebody must be messing with us. I'll contact the customer through the app and see what's going on." But when he tried, there was no response. The customer account was created that day, just hours before the order, and after some digging, it turned out the payment was through a prepaid card, practically untraceable. I couldn't shake off the chill I felt. Someone had lured me to an abandoned house in the middle of nowhere, in the dead of night. And for what? A prank? Or something more sinister? The more I thought about it, the less I understood, and the more disturbed I became. I took a few days off after that, trying to convince myself it was just a dumb joke. But every time it rained at night, every time I saw an order for a remote address, that fear gripped me again. What if I had opened that back door and walked in? Who or what was waiting? These questions haunt me still, and every chime of my phone signaling a new delivery sends a shiver down my spine. I stick to the city center now, avoiding the outskirts as much as I can. Some places, some orders are just not worth the risk. I'd been driving for Uber Eats for a few weeks, mostly late-night shifts because that's when the rates were best. Deliveries were usually quick and uneventful, but that all changed one rainy Tuesday night. I accepted a delivery from a sushi place downtown, and the destination was in one of those newer, upscale apartment complexes on the edge of the city. It was a decent ride from the restaurant, so I was counting on a good tip. The rain was relentless, hammering against my windshield, and it was nearly midnight, which meant this would probably be my last delivery of the night. I reached the complex, and the instructions said to deliver to Unit 4310. I thought it was strange since most late orders were for smaller, cheaper apartments or college dorms, not luxury suites. But who was I to judge? Hunger strikes at all income levels. Navigating the labyrinth-like hallways of the complex was a pain, but I finally found 4310 at the end of a dimly lit corridor. There was something immediately off about the place. The door was slightly ajar, and it was dead silent. Not what you'd expect in a building like this. I knocked lightly, then louder, but there was no answer. I called out, "Uber Eats," but still, nothing. Pushing the door slightly, I peeked inside. "Hello?" My voice was swallowed up by the darkness. No lights, no movement. It was like peering into a void. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside thinking maybe someone was there but couldn't come to the door. I could leave the food and get out. The apartment was unnervingly silent, and my phone's flashlight barely cut through the gloom. The place looked like it had been abandoned in a hurry. Furniture covered in dust sheets, no personal items or decorations. It didn't make any sense. I set the food down on the counter and turned to leave. That's when I heard it, a soft thud from another room. My heart skipped a beat. "Anyone there? I'm leaving the food on the counter," I announced loudly, hoping my voice would cover the tremble of fear. No answer. I shouldn't have done it, but curiosity got the better of me. I moved toward the sound, my phone's dim light leading the way. I found myself standing in front of a door, slightly ajar. The thud had come from there. I pushed it open, and my breath caught in my throat. The room was in complete disarray. Furniture was overturned, papers scattered everywhere, and then my light landed on something that made my blood run cold. A large, dark stain on the carpet, still glistening wet in the beam of my flashlight. I backed away, my entire body shaking. This was wrong. All of this was so wrong. I turned and ran, not stopping until I was back in my car, doors locked and breathing hard. I called the police immediately and waited for them to arrive, not daring to leave until I knew what had happened. They later told me the apartment had been rented out by someone under a fake identity. No one knew who they were or what had happened in that room. They thanked me for the call, said it could be a crucial piece of a larger investigation. I still do deliveries, but I never take orders for that complex anymore. Sometimes, late at night, I see that door, just slightly ajar, and the darkness behind it, and I remind myself, some things are better left undelivered. Driving for Uber Eats wasn't exactly my dream job, but it helped pay the bills. Most nights were unremarkable. Fast food deliveries, the occasional pizza, quick handoffs that barely broke the monotony. But there was one delivery I'll never forget, one that made me rethink working nights. It was close to midnight when the order pinged on my phone. A single meal from a local diner to be delivered way out on the edge of town, where the street lights grow sparsy and the houses few and far between. The address was unfamiliar, a cul-de-sac I'd never been to, wrapped tight by thick woods that edged the city. The map showed it as a lonely dot at the end of a long, winding road. The drive was quiet, the only sound the rain pattering softly against the windshield and the occasional hum of a passing car. When I turned onto the street, my headlights caught the reflective street sign, slick with rain and slightly askew. The house numbers were hard to read, the beam of my lights scattering shadows across the darkened facades of the houses. I finally found the right house, or what I thought was the right house. It sat back from the road, its windows dark, the front yard overgrown. A rusted-out car sat in the driveway, its tires flat, its paint job eaten away by rust. I shivered, not from the cold, but from a creeping unease that settled in the pit of my stomach. With the diner bag in hand, I walked up the cracked pathway, the sound of my footsteps loud in the quiet of the night. I reached the front door, its paint peeling, and rang the bell. Silence answered. I knocked, but again, no response. Leaning closer, I tried to peer through the side window but saw only my own reflection staring back at me. "Uber Eats," I called out, my voice sounding strange in the still air. Nothing. The house seemed utterly abandoned, but the app had confirmed the order, and customer support always emphasized customer satisfaction. So I left the food on the doorstep, took a picture for proof of delivery, and turned to leave. That's when I heard it. A faint noise, like a whisper coming from the side of the house. Curious and a bit concerned, I rounded the corner, thinking maybe the customer was outside. Instead, I found a gate ajar, leading to the backyard. The whisper turned into a murmur, then words too soft to make out. I pushed the gate open, the metal screeching softly. "Hello?" My voice was barely a whisper now, drowned out by the sound of my heart pounding in my ears. As I stepped into the backyard, my phone's flashlight casting long shadows on the ground, I realized the sound was coming from below. The ground was uneven, and as my light swept over the grass, I noticed a small, decrepit shed half hidden by overgrowth. I moved closer, the words becoming clearer, desperate. "Please help me." I froze, fear gripping me. I wanted to run, to get out of there, but then I heard it again, weaker this time. "Help me, please." I ran back out to my car and I called 911, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. When the police arrived, they found a hidden cellar beneath the shed. Inside was a girl, kidnapped days earlier from a town over. She was alive. Barely. I still drive for Uber Eats, but I never take deliveries to the outskirts anymore. Some roads, it turns out, are better left untraveled.